Well, we have a nice set of earnings that are going to be coming out right after close, guys. Right after close. So, number one, we have Meta, which currently seems to be eating a little bit of shit going into the close, which is kind of interesting. We have Microsoft, which is just kind of consolidating, nothing really big. Uh, you know, we'll see what happens with that. Amazon, again, consolidating, very much consolidating. If you look at these wicks, right, this is actually experienced a little bit of interesting trading going into the close. Um, we'll see what happens there. And Google, which is the one that, to be honest with you, out of all of these, that I am the most confident on, um, that I think is going to do well, right? And uh, basically, kind of the same behavior, right? So the SPY has recovered quite a bit going into close, right? This is the S&P 500 ETF. If you're not familiar, it is the main one that most options traders use. Going into this, what I've done is I took a straddle, right? So essentially, I'm not I'm not betting on a directional move. I'm betting on there being a move. And it doesn't matter which direction, right? Up or down. I all that I want to see is a movement. Right. So far, SPY catching a little bit of bidding in after hours here. We'll see when all of these start coming out. I'm actually going to get them up right here too, so I can take a peek. Just have another screen available. Need an additional one. Okay. Everything's just getting a nice little pump after hours so far. Let's wait on these actual reports to come out and start getting digested. And so it's not just moving with the S&P 500, which is, largely consolidating. I am leaning a little bit bearish here, so I'm kind of hoping for some disappointment. Oh my God, look at Meta. Hi there. Oh man. And Google just completely fucking flat right now. That's crazy. Look at everyone else is having these big initial reactions. Google is just completely fucking flat. And again, out of all of these, the one that I expect to do the best and report the best is Google. I think that Meta is going to be the clear loser, just because they're doing so much spending, dude. They're doing so much spending on data centers that are opening up everywhere. No big reaction on the SPY yet. Nothing there. Wow, look at Meta. And again, so the thing that we really, really want to figure out, right, in looking at these earnings reports is number one, we want to look at their spending on AI infrastructure, right? We want to look at the capital expenditure on expansion and on growth, because right now, it's not really translating to real meaningful top or bottom line growth for these companies, right? So wow, look at Microsoft. That's a fucking pump. We'll see if that lasts. And there is the unholy Google pump. Perfect. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, expect big volatility. So a lot of times what you'll see is on these earnings before the reports can actually be comprehended or anything, what you'll see is this big shake. Now, when they're drawing it down or drawing it way up, what they're doing is generating liquidity. They're clearing out the bid and the ask for whatever move is coming next, right? So that way, uh, the institutions can try to take control and guide these things to where they want them to be, right? So that's why we're looking for something beyond the initial reaction. It was just kind of weird that Google's was delayed compared to everyone else's, especially because I suspect that if anything that they probably did pretty well. Okay. Initial reaction is pretty good. It's not bad. Let me just quickly do this and see if there's a link here, if I am going to have to pull it all up right here. Okay. One moment. We're gonna pull it right up. We're gonna pull it right up. Oh man, Meta is really eating shit. Love to see that. Love to see that. That's very exciting stuff. All right. You see how like even if they want it to ultimately go down, you'll see like that little spike up, and how ultimately if they want it to go up, oftentimes you'll see that little move down. Like it's really just about market mechanics, right? So the way that these institutions like to take control, particularly during after hours, is often the time where they really like to take control and start moving things, when a lot of retail can't trade and when options can't be traded. um, what they'll do is essentially they clear out everything above the bid, they clear out everything above the ask, then they take control of the bid and the ask, and they just run volume through it. And when you control both the bid and the ask and you're running massive volume through it, you control price, you control direction, right? So they can basically bend these things to their will and guide them. But yeah, I am long volatility. Like that's what I'm betting on, is I'm betting that SPY is going to be bouncing all the fuck around. Okay. Well, it seems like Meta uh, has been kind of figured out by the markets. So let's take a look at this. Okay, so it looks like Meta beat on earnings and revenue growth, and yet they sell off. Why is that? Well, a lot of it was kind of baked into the price. Number two, I'm assuming that what we're going to see is we are going to see a ton of spending, right, on building out their infrastructure. Yeah, they had revenue growth of 33% year over year, so 33% higher than the first quarter of 2025, with fully diluted GAAP EPS. I hate reporting with GAAP, or the non-GAAP, so I like that we have GAAP earnings. Those are GAAP, the generally accepted accounting principles. So there's some that like to use non-GAAP because it kind of lets them obscure the truth a little bit, and it's just really not a good metric of how a business is doing. And there's always the chance too that, mind you, like during any of these earnings calls, that something can be said that completely changes the course, right? So keep that in mind. Zuckerberg is not really like the most charismatic person. He's kind of like a fucking unfeeling robot. He's like a lizard person. So, I don't know that I would expect that from him. Okay. Yeah. So that's Meta. and they are guiding for a revenue increase, which is also really interesting. Microsoft is basically right back to where it began. That big move up from, what was this? What did it close at? 424, 424.69. It traded all the way up to 445.24. That generated a ton of liquidity, and then now they're bringing it right back down. So this was basically a big bull trap on Microsoft, it seems so far. We'll see. We'll see what actually happens. Let's take a look at Microsoft. All right, Microsoft with some nice growth. Yeah, Microsoft with some nice growth, but it wasn't enough to beat analyst expectations. Whereas Google actually like far surpassed them. That's really interesting. Yeah, and Microsoft had a small beat, but it just wasn't enough. So they're selling off too. Meta, cool, continuing to sell off. Good. All right, let's take a look. Yeah, Google just fucking killed it. Oh my God. They were able to really, really hone in on the profitability too, because they had a $2 billion increase in revenue over the estimate, and they almost doubled the earnings per share estimate that Wall Street had given them. That's huge. Those guys are doing great. Who would have guessed that Google would do well? Crazy, right? Yeah, Microsoft's showing some real weakness right now. Just kind of waiting for the SPY to really start flipping red. I think it will. I think there's a good shot that SPY flips red. And again, like regardless of which direction, I just want a big move. And I think that to the downside is probably going to make more sense. Amazon bleeding out just a little bit. Let's take a look at how they did. Give me a sec, guys. I'll get to the chat in just a minute. I'm just kind of going through some of the stuff right now. I mean, it just came out, so I'm seeing it same time as you, right? I'm talking about it live as I'm reading about it. Okay. Okay. So Amazon beat, but was it enough? Was it enough? Okay, AWS, that is Amazon Web Services. That is like their big website hosting segment. That has been one of their biggest growing revenue sources in the last few years, and that had a nice beat of almost $1 billion. Their account or their advertising ended up beating by about $500 million over guidance. That's pretty big. Yeah. Yeah. So again, really like the biggest thing, I mean, these companies are all showing that they're making money, but they're not really making it from their AI investments. And those AI investments are super costly. Whereas like with Google, these guys have been working on it for a long time. And they are much more than just google.com, right? Got to think that they have YouTube, they have a web browser, they have the Android phones, right? Like Google does a fucking lot, and they are integrated pretty much everywhere. So probably like 90% of the ads that you see on the internet are coming from DoubleClick, right? Oh, Chief also straddled. Fuck yeah. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, it's all so here's the thing, VSL. Okay. Here's the thing. It's always all market manipulation. Every single market is manipulated. That's how money gets made. Right? Like to be completely honest, that's how money gets made. So, they basically, what they do is they kind of structure everything. They load the boat, yeah, and then they just manipulate the ever living shit out of it. Um, it's really interesting seeing the beats, right? And then seeing the sell off that happens afterwards. But again, like, I've been saying it in stream. I've been saying it for months now. We've talked about it on like our weekly calls, right? That the big thing to look out for here is the capital expenditures on expanding out that tech stack, right? And that infrastructure. It is a ton of money. It's only gotten more expensive. A lot of the components to build these chips and these supercomputers and these semiconductors, everything, right? Those are outsourced from other places that, number one, have the infrastructure to extract them, and number two, actually have the resources in the ground that they can extract, right? Um, so it's incredibly expensive to build out like a network of data centers. I mean, just if we're talking the raw components, we're not even talking about the energy to supply them, right? We're not talking about the logistics behind getting all the permits, right? Getting the construction companies to build them. They have to be built in very specific ways. Without even getting into all of that, just the raw cost of the components is fucking huge. It's a really, really big barrier. Okay. And it's something that's kind of spooking investors a little bit, spooking traders. Look, Amazon starting to follow suit, Google even dropped down. And to be honest with you, again, like if anyone, like, I expect Google to be doing the best. And lo and behold, wait, we said that before all these big reactions, right? Even as some of them were kind of spiking. And lo and behold, look, Google seems to be holding up the best. There we go. Yeah, that's right. You dumped for me. You dumped for me, Spy. I'm definitely leaning a little bit more bearish here. As I said earlier, right? Like I straddled, so I'm long on the volatility, but I am especially interested in the short leg of that. I think that's going to be the big one. Um, and part of that was that I literally watched puts get loaded all fucking day. Like I watched all the options chains get fucking slammed with put buyers. And a lot of the calls were just being sold at the bid, which can either indicate that they are being shorted or that somebody is trying to get out of these call positions super, super quickly, right? Let's go ahead and real quick, I want to check and see how UVIX is behaving with all of this, because this is a 2 times levered. You stop. This is a 2 times levered volatility instrument. So it takes the VIX, right, which is the basically the fear index is what it's called, and turn that off real quick, and it makes sure that it has basically 2x exposure, right, 2x leverage. So this is actually not really moving too much. Looks like maybe people aren't quite so worried. VIX, like the actual VIX, shot up into close, but it didn't even take out like today's highs. So, we're not really seeing, that big, like kind of like institutional hedging behavior where they all just go fucking stumble into VIX, right? That's often what happens as things start flipping red. Oh man, Google's kind of eating shit too. And to be honest, Google had the biggest beat out of them. They had the greatest beat. Nobody could do it like Alphabet. I know all the alphabets. I know ABCs. Okay. That was a little Trump impression for you. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. That's really interesting to see. Really interesting to see. Yeah, IV was ultra inflated. Absolutely. But that's always kind of the case going into these events, right? Is that people the IV is high because the potential for volatility is high, and everyone knows the potential for volatility is high. So they kind of start going and flocking into a lot of like out of the money calls and puts, and that open interest just increases the IV, right? And it kind of feeds into itself. So tomorrow that IV is going to be realized, and we are going to see a little bit of an IV crush. Um, I mean, unless this turns into like a really big sell-off that continues, in which case it'll just be the calls getting crushed. But we'll see how they're able to kind of handle this after hours. Interesting that we're finding a little support on Google, pretty much right where it kind of launched off of. Here, you know, let me actually, I'm going to do this. So where am I? There we go. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at the volume profile just for this time. Okay, so we saw a lot of heavy trading up here before eventually it kind of fell through, right? There's a little bit of a soft floor there. Got a little nodule there. We're not really looking at enough information to get a great idea though. So let's kind of draw it out. Yeah, that's really interesting. We're gonna have to go to a higher time frame here. If it wants to work. If it does it want to work today? Yeah, so you can see that there was heavy accumulation right at this point. It was mostly buy side, right? Conducted on the ask. So I would expect this point of control to hold as support, at least for the time being, it seems to. Everything else just kind of shit in the bed. Meta not really showing really any strength. Amazon showing a little bit of strength, but it, you know, this at this point, like it's red and it's just kind of like retesting. So we're going to see if this value area low holds as resistance, right? Because 70% of the volume from like this little window was conducted, right? Like it was transacted above this value area low, right? So, you know, we'll see if this holds or if shorts are going to come in and just slam it right back down. This would kind of be the area I would expect, right? Is the value area low and then the point of control. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, Amazon getting a little bit of a lift. Microsoft with a nice clean retracement and test off the value area low. Value area low is super low for Meta because there was a lot of fucking volume right here. Yeah, Meta definitely showing the most weakness. Like aside from just obviously like the price, right? Just kind of the structure. It's showing the most weakness. Google doing the best. Look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful. That is great. Well, you know, we certainly have a little bit of interesting stuff going on. Now, if you guys want, we can go and delve into some filings, some individual filings. You guys want to go into the filings? That's a question. You guys let me know. If we want to dig into some filings, we can certainly do that. I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, but it is mine. Meta really shown a lot of weakness here. We'll see if it can stay pinned right here or break into a different direction. But it's looking real weak. It'd be nice if we can get a nice big sell-off in, you know, like 2 or 3 of these. Again, you know, really big fan of Google going into this. And to be honest with you, just going forward, like I don't see a world where Google doesn't excel above and beyond pretty much everyone else. Like that's not even something that I can, not even something that I could foresee. And with Tesla disappointing due to their upcoming spending, right? Everything else seemingly disappointing a bit due to their upcoming spending. Things look a little bit fragile for the mega caps right now. To be honest with you, they really do. Like I'm not sure that I'm not sure that I would want to be long any of them except for Google. But you know what? With all of this spending, you know who benefits from it the most? Who the biggest beneficiary of all of this spending is probably Nvidia. And you know, Nvidia's I think it was the CFO, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to double check. Don't quote me on that, but it was one of the people from Nvidia's uh, basically like from their management, and they were talking about how the compute cost for AI is a lot more expensive than paying humans right now, right? So they fully acknowledge that this isn't going to be something that's just going to replace everyone immediately, right? Like that's not something that is feasible financially, or else they would totally be doing it, right? Oh, dude, Intel's been running all fucking day. Intel's been going crazy. And the thing is like, it's funny because I've talked about how, I really like Intel quite a bit. Um, but I think that this is something that you just hold for 5 years because, if I'm correct, this is kind of just like the beginning of something that could be really, really big, right? Like realize that right now this company is it costs a premium, right? Like to buy it. Like it's expensive for what it is. But I don't think that it's expensive for where it could be in the next few years. I think that especially if you're trying to like enter at these levels, like again, it's really expensive. So, maybe wait for a little bit of a dip, a little bit of a pullback. But this is something where I would be looking at the next, 5 years, not the next 5 days. Also, something very notable is that these are the all-time highs. They finally were able to unbag everyone from back in the day. Look at that. Look at that. Nana is in heaven, nice and proud of her grandson, unless he paper handed like a little bitch. Amazon really finding some support here off the value area low, as is Microsoft. Meta finding support, but that thing's still fucking cooked, dude. They just took a massive haircut. And surprisingly, like SPY is actually kind of flat, which is not something that I had anticipated today. To be honest with you, like it's just not something that I was really expecting. And then what was the other one you said? AMD. So I feel like AMD is just like Nvidia's little brother that coasts off of it. Like their business is not the most impressive thing. I mean, it is, don't get me wrong, like it is an impressive company. I'm not saying that they're garbage, but I'm saying that like it seems like they're always behind the curve, right? When you're comparing them to their peers. Like their margin 15.77%. Let's look at the annual for 2025. So their annual net margin was 12.32%. And then we can compare that with NVIDIA, right? So 12.32. And then we can go to NVIDIA and look at them annually, 55 or 55.6. So not only do they have more revenue, but they're able to generate more income, right? They have figured out profitability. And while there is significant revenue for AMD and they do turn a profit, it's nothing like what Nvidia does. It just isn't. So I don't know. AMD always feels like, again, like they're just behind. And I don't know how or when or what it'll take for them to catch up. But as of this moment, I really think that Nvidia is just a superior trade, right? I think that that's the superior investment. Hmm. Well, SPY being basically flat was not something that I expected today. There is still some time, but wow, that is not something I was expecting. I mean, I knew it was a possibility. I just didn't think it was likely. Okay. What else do we have to talk about? Well, I think really, to be honest with you, that's pretty much all I really wanted to discuss. I wanted to talk about how these guys did and take a quick little peek. Um, kind of as we expected, Google did the best, Meta did the worst. Microsoft and Amazon, to be honest, they both did pretty well. But the price is just not really moving too much. I mean, a little bit on Microsoft, but Amazon is like literally right where it closed. So, it is what it is. Um, but yeah, I think that really that's it. I don't think that there was anything else that I really wanted to discuss. Do you guys have any questions? I guess that would be my next thing that I wanted to make sure of, right? Do you guys have any questions about what just happened? Anything at all? No, absolutely. I got you. New Ayatollah Rubio. That's such a funny fucking name, man. That's such a funny fucking name. Yeah, we'll wait to see what happens with all this. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it with Microsoft, right? Is that they beat on their revenue and their income, um, but again, right, like the thing that we're watching the most is looking at the capital expenditures, right, to build out all that infrastructure, and that's what you're seeing drag on EPS, right? That's earnings per share. So you are seeing them make money. You're seeing uh, you're seeing them make money. You're seeing, the revenue roll in that beat analyst expectations. But you are also seeing um, that they're spending a ton, right? And that can be a little bit concerning. So, that seems to be scaring some investors, right? Some of them have some concerns that they're spending too much and not getting anything out of it, which is something that we have talked about so fucking much over the last few months in stream, especially when everything was kind of drawing down, um, prior to the war in Iran, just tanking it. Yeah, that's pretty much like the big takeaway from Microsoft. Um, to be honest with you, right? They're dumping a ton of money into AI. That's it. Like that's the whole concern. That's the whole reason that they're red, despite beating on revenue and earnings. Right? It is simply because they are also spending a shit ton. That spending, especially when you're not seeing any like immediate impact to your top or your bottom line, like that's some shit institutions really don't want to be fucking holding on to, you know. So, this might be causing like a little bit of a trim. Um, it's really kind of an interesting little day. But Google did really well. I like to see that. I do like Google. And Meta did terrible, which is, those were the two things that I really expected out of this. So I'm glad that, hey, I still got it. I still got it. I still got it. Okay. Yeah, man. Spy's like fucking dead. There's just nothing happening here. I wonder, real quick before we end, actually, let's take a look at this. The scenario where we could see quite a bit of resistance. Had that nice little blow off top up here on Nasdaq on that initial reaction, right? Drew down for whoa, there we go. Drew down for liquidity, right? Drew down for liquidity, pumped up, gathered even more liquidity, sold off a bunch on the top, entered shorts, and slammed it right down. So you see what I mean? That like what we were talking about at the beginning of the stream, right? Where they will maneuver and manipulate in order to number one position and number two to bait in as much capital as they can before they drag it the other way and just wreck everyone, right? Because like let's say you were long going into after hours, well, they would have probably hit your stop right here. And then when everyone was going short, right, thinking, oh my gosh, it just broke under this big channel. Psych, run it back up. Oh, okay. Earnings were really good. Everyone longs and they drag it down, right? So they're really good at milling people out and just basically fucking attracting all of the capital and taking it away. Like all of this is for a reason. Dude, Google is fucking pumping. Wow, beautiful. Beautiful. Love to see that. Love to see that. All right, gang. Well, I mean, if that's all, if no one has any questions on kind of what we went over, what to expect, what to look for, um, I think that really again it's watch for the AI capex. Um, to be honest with you, I'm kind of expecting some of this to cool off even further tomorrow and sell down a little bit more. Um, I really don't see them trying to like run the market up and squeeze it at the moment, especially with oil also starting to really spike up. So, like, we could take a look at that real quick. I'll show you what I'm talking about. And we talked about this earlier in the morning, right on stream. So, if you are not part of the Warriors, then you're missing out because we have these kinds of in depth discussions every day. So, uh, we were talking probably like right around here, right? Like halfway through this candle, that oil looked like it was about to just break out and up in a major way. And lo and behold, it has. Who would have fucking guessed? So again, if you're bearish on oil, like I mean, if you are actually trading bearish on oil, you're getting fucking squeezed out right now. And all the oil stocks did pretty well. They did pretty well. So, I don't think that with that backdrop and with the war in Iran looking very uncertain right now, that I don't think that they want to push this quite yet. right? I think that there's a lot of money riding long on oil and short on equities. And I would at least think that they would want to resolve some of this this week, right? Before moving on. And who knows? I mean, next week can be different. I mean, shit, this week can be fucking different. Like we could pump. I just I'm not saying that the rally is over, but I'm saying that I don't think that it's going to continue this week. Like for the remainder of the week, we'll see. We'll see. There's a lot to digest, and I'm going to have to actually go into the filings for these earnings reports and kind of get some of the more fine details, right? Because we just kind of went over the base numbers and basically like the general takeaways. But there are definitely some very like company specific things to pay attention to. And like for instance, one of the biggest ones with Google is number one, their Google Cloud, and number two, their Gemini, right? Their AI that they've been dumping a ton of money into that I think is actually starting to see some use, which is really interesting. Um, Amazon did really well in AWS, but we are seeing a little bit of a slowdown in the US consumer. So, their traditional like e-commerce business suffered a little bit. Um, and I'm gonna put out some reports on the really important things for all the warriors later. So make sure that you join in. Um, yeah, really interesting stuff. Really interesting stuff. All right, gang. Well, we'll see what happens next. We're going to be going live tomorrow, 1 hour before market open, and we're going to stream for about 2 hours. So be sure to come in, say hi, check it out, and well, until then, I hope